You're good to go.
Perfect. Well, good morning, guys. Thank you so much for making some time this morning for this 10 a.m. meeting. I know it's Friday, the week before the last week of school and finals, so I know it can be a little bit hectic, but we appreciate you guys being here. We're gonna be touching briefly on a couple things. We're just gonna go over, like I said, the welcome and the quorum. Uh, Cheyenne is joining shortly, so she'll be going over the SAC bylaws committee update. So basically, we should be pretty done with that, and she'll touch more upon that. And then I'll update you more on the SAC survey committee update. So there's a lot of details regarding that as well, and then open nominations, right? Cheyenne and I are finished with our term this end of semester. So the SAC is going to be looking for a new chair and vice chair. So if I'm not mistaken, the vice chair is going to be coming from one of the state universities, and the chair is going to be coming from one of the community colleges. So that should be pretty exciting. Great leadership opportunity, great opportunity to connect with others and network, and just have a better understanding of how the system works, right? I know there's a lot of buzz going around, but like truly being in the room and understanding how the decisions are being made, I think it's a valuable experience that you're not gonna really find at this point in your life anywhere, if I'm being honest. So, with that being said, we'll start with the roll call, and I think this is one of our last couple of meetings, Tam, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think we might have another one.
This meeting for the team to meet. And then if we do have individuals interested in running for the positions, we will do a special election meeting in May. And then also if we have a joint meeting, I believe it's May 28th with the Board of Regents, where we'll present what we worked on over the course of the semester. And anybody is able to attend that meeting virtually as well. And I believe that's on May 28th. I'll get that date and put it in the chat.
Yeah, so um, definitely looking for people that are ready to take some leadership and take this to the next level. And then you're not going to be alone, right? You're going to have support from Tam, who's well connected across the state. You know, she'll be there to walk you every step of the way, as well as me and Cheyenne, right? We want to make sure that you guys are informed and you have all the information and the resources available for you to be successful. So we'll make sure that your experience is as seamless as possible, right? Because we want you guys to be successful. Because in a way, we don't want our efforts to go to waste, as well as like we want you to be successful, right? So um, if you're interested and you're thinking about it, or you're like thinking about it, you're like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm not confident enough in myself. You can do it. Like anyone can do it. It's just a matter of having the willingness and the initiative to do it. So with that being said, I'll stop yapping and I'll go to roll call. So we'll start with Charter Oak.
Donna Wagner, present.
Thank you, Donna. CCSU, that's me. Eastern Connecticut State University. Absence is noted. Central Connecticut State University. Absence is noted. Western Connecticut State University.
Here, Soraya Gagnavin, by the way.
Perfect. Thank you. On Snontuck Community College.
Here. Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Cheyenne.
Hey.
Capital.
Hi, Dominique, present.
Awesome. Thank you, Dominique. Gateway. Okay. Absence is noted. Housatonic.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Shaw. Manchester. Okay. Absence is noted. Middlesex.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nagatok.
Good morning, it's Nia Jenkins.
Hi, Nia. And then I see alternates here too, Victor. Perfect. Northwestern.
It's Dakota, present.
Hi, Dakota. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Norwalk.
Hi, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you. Three Rivers. See Malika right there.
Malachi is here.
Awesome. Tonses.
Here. Cameron's here.
Awesome. Thank you, Cameron. And Quinnipiac Valley.
Yeah, hello, that's me.
Perfect. Thank you, Dimitri. So I believe we have quorum. We only missing 4 institutions, so that should give us plenty of quorum, right? And to answer your question, Dimitri, do people who have graduated from City State at that point have to attend that meeting? That's a good question. I'll bounce that to Tam. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But that's a good question. I think you might have to do your alternate. I think you have to be enrolled in the institution, if I'm not mistaken. But Tam, if you wanna.
They typically had the joint meeting in April, but they were unable to do so. They were unable to have a joint date. So they picked a May date and understand it's past graduation. Any student that was involved in SAC is welcome to attend if they would like to attend the joint meeting on the 28th. If you're unable to attend, you do not need to attend. We're asking our SAC chair and vice chair that sat in those seats to do the presentation for the board. And if any students are able to come that participated this year on the 28th, if you can make it, that's fine. If not, it's not a big deal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
no problem.
Perfect. And with that being said, we'll get right into our agenda. And the floor is all you, Cheyenne, with the SAC Pilot Committee update.
Thank you, Luis. Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. Beautiful, shining faces. Hey. So recently, I truly finalized the SAC bylaw document with adding in our additional things that we agreed on from the last meeting. And I emailed that updated version to someone at System Office, and she's part of the General Counsel. Currently, with her busy schedule, she's taking the time to review the document, and then I'm going to meet with her to speak about it, clarify some things, and then we're going to have the opportunity to present it to the Board of Regents so they can review it and it could get passed. So we're moving in the right direction. Things are going well. And I'm very grateful to everyone who was on my committee, everyone who participated, in the SAC meetings, prior to leading up to the final creation. So, that's all I have for right now. Quick and easy. So I'm going to pass it back to Luis to talk about our survey.
Well, that was definitely quick. And thanks, Diane. No, appreciate it. Yeah, so that was a big accomplishment this year, right? I don't want it to go without giving you your flowers, Cheyenne, and your team for doing this. Like we said, it hadn't been updated for quite some time, and it was definitely the step in the right direction to make sure that we build a good foundation under the SAC committee. So I'll move on to the survey aspect of it, right? So over the past few months, as you know, we've been working on the survey, developing it. We were being somewhat ambitious. If I'm not mistaken, in the beginning of the year, I was like, our goal is to try to get it through this year. In mind, knowing that that would have been very, very ambitious, and understanding the time that we have allocated in this. It's not like we meet every day, right? We only meet maybe twice a week, once a week. And if we were in the subcommittee meetings, we were meeting up more often. But still, I think for the level of detail and the type of work that the survey needs to be done, if I was being quite realistic, it needed more time to develop, right? So, like we said, we've been working closely with the Student Advisory Committee and the system, as well as System Office. We reached out to the Institutional Research Office at the university. and they took us down through every step of the way of like what we need to make sure the survey is successful, right? So we held 4 meetings, and we asked the questions. So the questions are fully developed. The format of the survey is also developed. It would just have to go through one of the institutional research offices, and then finding a method of like utilizing the questions. So what type of service we're gonna use for our survey platform, as well as how we're gonna um, push out the survey to all the universities, right? So with that being said, I think if I'm being realistic, um, passing along this project to the next leadership group, I think it's the wisest decision to make sure that this survey gets done correctly and it's not rushed, right? We don't want something rushed that might not cover all the aspects that we're looking to cover. So we did a lot of the foundation work for the survey. So if the next leadership team takes over, they already have the blueprint of how to do it and the next steps of what to do. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm gonna be meeting again with the institutional research office or system office uh, sometime during this next couple of weeks, and then I'll provide you guys with like the final um, file that has all the questions, all the steps outlined, as well as what should be done next, right? Because we want to make sure this survey gets out, if not next semester, by next year, right? And just because I think that's going to give a lot of tangible data for the board to make decisions. And right, so we wanted to highlight like what are the areas of concern. Um, we also wanted to provide like comparisons between the universities and the community colleges, right? So for that, we need more details, more research, more information, right? And then we got to decide like, okay, once we have all the data, how are we going to visualize it to the board, right? Because their job is only to read and then make decisions upon the information they're given, right? So whether we're going to do graphs or infographics for clarity, and then we need to figure out partnerships with the SGAs from the student advisory committee to make sure that once we have the survey ready to go, we can delay the survey to all the students across the campus, right? Because that's the goal. At least give everyone the opportunity to fill it out. So I think we did a great job of providing a very strong like starting point for the next cohort of students that is going to come through the student advisory committee and really take this over and make their own, right? We did our job of like getting this idea started, I think, building a lot of the foundation work to make sure this is successful. So the next cohort is going to have to put their input and their effort, but I think they'll do a good job of like carrying this forward, and hopefully we can drive some meaningful improvements across the system, which is the goal at the end, right? So that's kind of what I have with the SAC survey. I really appreciate everyone this year. I know it's been a little bit of a transitional year with everything going on. You know, I'm sure you SGAs and you've seen a lot of change throughout the semesters as well. So it's definitely been an interesting year, but we got through it. We're here, and yeah, I can't wait to see who steps up and who's gonna take the next step with this project and other projects that they want to bring up. So that's all I have for the SAC survey, and then I'll let Cheyenne touch a little bit upon. Yeah, if you want to give your perspective and your experience thus far as vice chair this year, Cheyenne. I know that you were kind of a little bit on the fence when we first started, but I think you just took it over and like made it yours, and pretty impressive to see. But I guess like hearing from you, it's good representation to the students here. So
Sure. I feel like I'm caught on candid camera. Honestly, reflecting on my experience as the vice chair, coming from a student who did not know what SAC was, even though I've been part of CT State, I started out at Capital, I took classes at Manchester, I'm wrapping up my career at as Nuntuck. I felt like I had to do a little bit of catching up, learning the system, learning who's who, how does this work, what role do the students play into everything? Because, students are the center of the focus. Students are, why CT State is what it is. I feel as though this experience, in addition to being, president of SGA, it definitely, what's the word? I feel as though it brought me to the next level in my leadership skills. And I know Sherry Paquette is online and she's just, probably bouncing for joy when I say that. It allowed me to grow. It expanded my mind. I feel as though it did a lot of things, but there were times when, I'm balancing SAC with school, with SGA, work. So I really had to, sometimes dial back and find my balance. But I'm very grateful for this experience, and I feel as though it set me up for, these next couple steps that I'm going to take, in my personal life, professional life, and academic journey. So as Louise said, if you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, you're more than welcome to talk to me, to him, talk to myself. We can give you some of our experience, what we've learned, and, hopefully encourage you to take this next step in your leadership journey.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really like the part when you touch upon expanding your mind, right? I think when I first started, I was very, not necessarily close-minded, but rather like I didn't know, right? I didn't know how things worked. I just, as a student, sometimes you just, a lot of the decisions being made, you have no control over them. But then being at the position and sitting at the board, um, really changed that perspective, right? Made me understand that like change is possible, right? And it's just getting to that position first, right? And also expanding your mind. It's impressive how things work in the state, right? And whether you like it or not, having that understanding, uh, it's gonna help you, right? If you have an understanding of how things work, it's obviously gonna help you. So, yeah, I couldn't recommend it more. Definitely, if you're interested, shoot Tam an email, Cheyenne or I, an email. Um, and then if there's any questions about it, um, please raise your hand and we can go over them. But that's really what we have for today. I know it's a short meeting. Um,
Can I talk about the commitment of SAC and just kind of like the role of being on SAC a little bit with everybody quickly? So when you're a chair or a vice chair on SAC, you are a regent on the Board of Regents. And so there are regents from across the state that serve on our board and they guide CSCU. And CSCU encompasses our 4 universities, the 12 community colleges, which is now one merged institution called CT State, and Charter Oak, which Donna goes to, and she's our rep from Charter Oak. And so it's considered the 6 institutions now. And the Board of Regents governs us. And what governs means is it gives guidance to our finances, our policies, and our procedures within our organization. We have 2 student regents on the board, and the student regents provide us guidance and support from the student perspective, but they are standing voting members on the board. So whenever the board votes on things, the 2 students have votes within that board. So their voices are heard at all times. And it's a really powerful place for a student to be on the board and to give their voice. Now, essentially, they're sitting for the entire system. So the 85,000 students that are within the system. So you're going to be going back and getting feedback from students across the system. And that's why you hold these Friday meetings, is so that you can gather information, especially if there's a topic at the board meetings that's going to be coming up that you need to get input from all students on. So that's essentially your role. You go to the board meetings once a month. You host these meetings, but you have myself as your advisor, so you're not alone in this process. We have monthly meetings. I try to meet with, how often do we meet? A couple times a month, usually 2-3 times a month. So you'll have meetings with me. I guide you on the agendas. You go to the board meetings. Sometimes there's also special meetings that you'll be speaking at. You work at various graduations sometimes to do welcome remarks. Those are written for you. So there's a lot of different opportunities. what does that do for you as a student? It helps you network with individuals in the state. It could help you long term with job prospects in the state, which is amazing. It can help you to build your public speaking skills. It helps you build your resume. It helps you build your confidence. It helps you build so many different things as a student. So, and you don't have to be perfect at all those things when you come into the role. It helps you to grow in those areas. So I want you to really think about, is this a role that I could really learn in and really grow in? And as they said this year, the chair seat is available for a community college student, and the vice chair is available for someone who is going to be a CSU student, so at one of the universities. And they work in tandem. Luis and Cheyenne work together as a pair, as a partnership, and you have myself as your lead advisor in the system to help you through that whole process. The other position we've had a hard time filling is there's a secretary position too for the SAC committee. So I would love to see if we can get a third person, and that person could be either at the community college level or at one of the CSUs or Charter Oak. So if we could get 3 this year, that would be amazing. If we had a triad or a team that worked together, and that would be great. But if anybody is interested in any of these positions, if you want to send me an email, I'll put my email into the chat so everybody has it. I would love to set up an individual appointment and kind of go through some of the details, and then we can have a conversation about that. And if we have several people that are interested, we would hold a nomination and a vote and try to get everybody squared away before the semester starts. And you can also bring this back to your SGAs if there's anybody interested. I would like to see individuals that are applying for this that are currently involved in their student government, because you would need to have some kind of student government experience to really run SAC properly. Any questions right now that people have about the commitment? You would need to go to the board meetings. You can go virtually or in person, and you would have to be able to host the SAC meetings and be currently involved with SGA. Dominique.
Yes. So, how long do we have to respond for this? Like if I wanted to bring it back to the SGA and then talk to you
In
about
the
it?
next week or two, if you could, if you could talk to
Okay.
your SGA officers and then get back to me, that would be great. So
Okay.
I would like to, I'm going to try and put out a call for nominations for the student government. I was going to send it out to the student activities directors next week as a call for nominations, or if there's any students they'd like to recommend. I was
Okay.
going to send that out early next week.
And if you are the president of the SGA, can you still hold this position as well?
You can. You have
Okay.
2 folks here that are their presidents of their SGAs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, you're not on your own. You have an advisor, you have somebody that leads you through this. We set the agendas together. We talk about, I meet with them before board meetings so that they know what's going to be on agendas, so that they're prepared. If there's going to be conversation about something that is either confusing, or if there's documents that are coming out that they need to read, that clarity is needed on them, because there's a lot of stuff that, let me, like, even I have a lot of degrees, but that doesn't mean I understand everything. And so I'll meet with Luis and Cheyenne. I'll be like, this is coming down the pipeline or down the train track. Let me go through this with you. Let me help you understand how this is going to roll and what's coming out and your role in this. And so I think I've been helpful, or I try to be helpful, so that they're understanding their role. And I believe, at least they can talk to this, how they have been welcomed by the Board of Regents and how their voice has been heard. So maybe you guys could talk about that a little bit with the group, of how you've been folded into the Board of Regents and how they've heard your voice.
So, from my experience, I've been in a position for some time, and I have the pleasure to serving in like almost every facet of the roles that are currently being available. So, first of all, it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, right? Because you're walking into a room full of people well into their careers, right? And you might think like, I'm just a student. Like, what do they have to hear from me, right? At least that's what I used to think. Almost like you have that imposter syndrome where like you feel like, hey, what am I doing here? But the reality is that like your voice is just as valuable as they are, right? And then you realize that they're just people just like you, right? And as long as you're doing a well-informed vote, they're gonna respect your decision, right? As well as for example, like we had I had the pleasure of serving with Carla uh, last year, and she went to do great. She became a uh, legislative intern, and then ended up transferring to like Stanford University, right? Uh, and a big part of that was because of like who she was, but as well as like the opportunity of having served as a board of region, right? So, like I said, the opportunities are there. The regions are always super supportive and willing to hear your voices, as well as it's a great leadership opportunity. Um, yeah, I think I highly recommend it to anyone, right? And also, like putting things into perspective makes you appreciate the role a lot better too, right? Um, I think if you think about it in theory, the chair and the vice chair serves as the two representatives for the whole system, right? For the students. So you're not only representing your SGA, you're not only representing yourself, but you're also representing all the students across the system, right? So I think there are around like 75,000 students, right? So in theory, you'll be representing 75,000 students across the campuses, right? Um, that's the role you'll be playing. So I think putting things into perspective and understanding that, not letting that overwhelm you, but rather like motivate you to step up to the position. And like Cheyenne said, it's great opportunity to growth, right? I think as human beings, we're very resilient and we like to adapt to things. So when we're faced with a challenge, we usually rise to the occasion, right? So um, I think, yeah, it's been nothing but a great experience for me. I've learned a lot, developed a lot of my leadership skills. I still it made me realize a lot of my weaknesses as well, right? A lot of things that I got to improve upon. So it's been a um, super great experience.
I will also say, I'm gonna toot Tamara's horn for her because she doesn't toot it enough. Tamara has never left, Luis and I, in the dark, or like we never felt ill prepared before a meeting. We're very informed about things, and Tamara is an excellent person, an excellent advisor, mentor, the whole nine. So, if you're on the fence about thinking whether or not you want to be a chair or vice chair, just, truly know from the bottom of my heart, and I think Luis can second this,
I
you're in
agree.
great hands. You're in excellent hands.
Yeah, Tam is great. Nothing but to give her flowers for the work she's been doing with us. She makes things simple, easy for us to, she understands that we're at the end of the day, we're also students, right? And we also got other responsibilities to carry out, right? I mean, I was working sometimes a full-time job while taking 5 or 6 courses at school and while work at like leading other projects as well, right? So life is busy, right? But that's just how it goes sometimes. And Tam made it so easy for us to be like, hey guys, we got to prepare for this. We need this, we need that, and boom. It was easy. She gave us everything we needed. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't recommend it more. Tam has been great. Definitely one of the best advisors that I had so far. So yeah, I couldn't recommend it more. But I think that's what we have so far for you guys. I think um,
There was a
we're
question about travel. All of the Board of Regents meetings are virtual, so you could do virtual meetings. Sometimes we travel together to the meetings. Sometimes the meetings are in Hartford at 61 Woodland Street. There is sometimes they do want people on site for certain meetings, and so we can figure that out. I've traveled with Cheyenne to some meetings. She's met me in Hartford and we've traveled down. Same with Luis. So there's different ways that we've gotten students to different events. Where people live in the same area and we kind of travel together, and you get reimbursed for any mileage that you do or travel as a student regent. And I'm going to put in the chat too, this is the archive of the Board of Regents meetings. So you can watch a meeting of the Board of Regents, and you can see the role of all the regents. So there's archived videotapes of meetings, and you could look at like a few meetings back, or you could watch one of the meetings and you can actually see Luis and Cheyenne in the meetings or how they vote on things. And you can see some of our bigger meetings that they attend. So if anybody wants to actually see a Board of Regents meeting and what they look like, and they're typically the last Thursdays of the month. So in the morning, and they're 2 hours. So just so you know, just some background on that. And Donna has her hand up.
Hi, this isn't related to, serving as a chair or vice chair, but I wanted to kind of squeak this in so we didn't end the meeting without bringing this up because I didn't see it on the agenda. You had sent an email out to us on April 10th about some feedback for the directory information. And our meeting got canceled and it got pushed later. So I did send this off for people on our SGA to respond to. I just don't have all the responses back yet. So I
Okay.
wanted to make sure I can still send this to Jan, or how long do we have to send a
Whenever
response? I'm
you
trying to
get
put it
it,
all
Donna.
on
Yeah.
one sheet
whenever.
and just send it.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as
Great.
you get it and send it to Jan, I'm sure she'll appreciate whatever you get. Thank you for doing that. And thank you everybody for getting that feedback for Jan and the IR department at System. Thank you. And thank you for all your support, everyone.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys having you here today. Like I said, there's been a little bit of a, I don't know how to describe this year. It's been like a lot of ups and downs, right, for everyone. I mean, at least personally, it's been like that. But I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? It's been a roller coaster, but things are shaping up. Things are looking bright. The weather got good, so um, things are looking up, guys. And like I said, thank you so much for your support and for being here. And like I said, I can't wait to see who steps up. I can't wait to see who steps up and takes the next step in their leadership, as well as like pushing this group forward to making, like, honestly, system-wide changes for the betterment of students, right? So that's all I have from my end. Cheyenne or Tim, if you guys want to chime in.
Just want to echo what you said and thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate you all.
I'd just like to thank Luis and Cheyenne for their leadership. I'm very proud of both of you for the work that you do while being a student. It's a lot of work. And I'd like to also thank each of you, because I know how hard it is to go to school and to be a student leader. And so for that, I thank all of you. For those that are graduating, I don't know if anybody's graduating on this call. Anybody besides Cheyenne that's graduating? Happy graduation. Anybody else want to put in the chat if they're graduating so we can celebrate you?
Nia's graduating.
Nia, Leticia, anyone else that I'm missing? Congratulations to everybody that is graduating. Very proud. I'm very, very thankful for all of you, and congratulations to everyone. And I hope you get to celebrate and get some downtime this summer. For those of you that are returning next semester, if you are returning in a leadership role or as a student, and you ever need any support with anything, please know that I am a resource for you at the system office. If you ever need anything, you have my email. It's in the chat. Feel free to anytime you need anything, just reach out. I'm always here to provide any support. And remember to thank someone on your campus that got you through this year. Before you leave for the semester, you find that one person that was your support person. They need to hear that before the end of the semester. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop recording. We're going to end the recording for today. Stop.